Well, you have to feel. Okay, already standing, so we don't have to stand for the flag salute. Let's go. Flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. By Councilwoman Pugh says the prayer. Please don't stand.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of our community. Guide us as we make decisions that will affect all the residents of our great city. We place our hearts and our minds in your hands so that you may direct us. Amen.
Please remain standing. I'd like to get a moment of silence for a couple of brigadiners that passed. One just today, and actually a good friend of mine. And Ann McGatz is one of them. We just had her funeral the other day. She's a transplant from Philadelphia, and she was a great friend, and survived by her husband Joe. And Dave Martin. Dave passed today. I talked to Peggy when she came in to pay her taxes, actually. So it was a somber moment for me. And Dave was a great guy. Actually, a boat designer, designed yachts, like ocean yacht. So he was a great human being. So let's have a moment of silence for the two brigadiners, please. Okay, thank you. Now we can sit.
This is to advise the meeting notices covering this meeting have been sent and posted as required under the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you, Lynn. And welcome everybody to our November 6, 2019 council meeting. We did not have executive session, so we don't have to hear from you, Fred. Good thing. I'm going to go out of order a little bit because we have a nice crowd here tonight, and some of the things that we worked on will impact you guys. The first thing, I've been negotiating with Atlantic City Electric for about 2 years now. They're bringing in a new, as everybody should know by now, the electric from over the bridge into 38th Street into a new power plant, and 75-foot poles are going to go up, metal poles up and down the boulevard. Well, I forwarded a letter to our solicitor today, right around 3 o'clock, and it cost about $25 million. Atlantic City Electric agreed to put it underground.
Yeah.
I wish I could take all the credit for it, but they realized they couldn't put 75-foot poles on a sandbar. So, without some problems. So, no cost to the taxpayer. It's that additional cost, about $25 million to Atlantic City Electric, which I don't like that, but but they're going to go right down the middle of Brigantine Boulevard, and we won't have our grass there anymore, so we're not going to be closing it down on a Thursday morning when everybody's going to work and to cut the grass. So that's a really nice thing that you keep on pounding on the pavement, and we got things done. Let me see where we're at. No executive. Okay, I need a first and a second on approval on October 16th council minute meetings and executive.
So moved.
Second.
Any conversation? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson.
You forgot me already?
She was going to say
I
something.
said, no, I was looking to see if Vince was here.
No. By the way, our deputy mayor, he's away with his family and up someplace. I don't know where he went, but I don't know if he would like me to tell people where he went. But he's having a great time with his family, so he's missing tonight's meeting. So, and yes.
Motion carries.
Approval on payroll and operating expenses, first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, we were going to recognize our cross-country team, but before that, I'm going to come up to the front there and ask Mrs. Marandino to come up to the front. That makes two of us. Some of the school teachers have called me, and I'm going to have a voice resolution right now. I know there's not going to be a no in this house, so, and I thought it'd be great with the kids here and everything like that. They like to name the street out in front of the school, Di Marandino Way. Lynn, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Absolutely.
Reardon,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson.
Damn straight.
Motion carries.
That like these signs all up. It's going to be beautiful. I was telling you to do it. Yeah, I will. And we'll do it. But the Terry Rick is a big part of it. And she's in California, or she would have been here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good job.
Come on. I'm not saying.
Warren? Yeah. Kathy, please come up. Maureen, you want to give a little history of, well, you're a gunker. I figured you talk a lot. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, this year we had an exceptional cross-country team. We had over 50 students, 5th through 8th grade running, under the direction of Coach Duran and myself. They were just an exceptional group of kids. They worked together as a team from the first day of practice, and we practiced every day. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Chi-Chi. We practiced every day we could. They were just an exceptional team. And to have Mrs. Duran as a coach, these kids have no idea how lucky they are. She kept it fresh. She had fun Fridays. She did core workouts. It didn't matter what the weather was. We were inside, we were outside, we were on the track. Mrs. Duran just really gave these kids such an opportunity. The boys team, what's our final, 8-0. Girls were 2 and 6, but we ran together. We were a team from the start. We cheered each other on. We worked together to make each other faster. And in cross country, you run for yourself but you also run for the team. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful team and a fabulous group of 8th graders who really, really led the team. And it was a fabulous year. Would you like that?
I just, we have a banner up there. We have banners in our gym. And the cross-country banner, they ordered it, and Mrs. Fox said, you know, someday we're going to fill that. And it's been years and years and years. And I've been around a long time, man, a long time. And it sits there empty. And I said to the boys and the girls this year, I'd really like to win something. I've never won, I've coached forever, I've never won anything. And after the first and second meet, we started to look like, uh-oh. And then when we ran against Mulliga, I do have to say, I brought them with pizza. And I said, if either team beats Mulliga, I'll buy the whole team pizza. And guess what? They beat them back to back, once at our place and once there. And that's like our nemesis. They were the team that always beat us, always won the Cape Atlantic. So we beat them back to back, and then we had to run Absecon, and they made me a little nervous. And if it wasn't for Lucy Burns and Colin Williams, I would have had a heart attack because I saw them coming around the track. But we had a great year, and the girls and the boys were awesome. Never had any problems. I would say, Mrs. Fox, not one teacher said, oh, a kid's not doing something. We didn't have any discipline problems. We would take 50 on the bus, and we would have to be like hopeful that we brought 50 back. Because it's so hard to rile them all up. But you know, we can coach all we want, but I've never seen a group of kids that bonded like this group. The last race, the last kid in, they always ran with them. Okay, they promoted each other. Like we always say, the first runner and the last runner are as important to us. So it's been a great year, and I really appreciate that all the kids came tonight and that they really made our lives really easy. And it's wonderful. I've never coached a team like this, and you guys, it's all about you guys. You guys were awesome. So thank you.
I want to thank again our coaches. If you have any idea how much dedication they put into cross-country, not just when they're there, but thinking about the next year, what's going to happen. I can tell you a few years ago, Mrs. Duran was coaching the team. We only had one coach, and there were just so many kids. It just kept adding on and adding on and adding on. And she said, I think we're going to need a bigger bus. And then the next year, I think we're going to need another coach. And now we're 50 strong, which is, in a school as small as we are, is incredible. So I think that's a testament to the kids want to be there with each other, and they want to be there with their coaches, and I think that's a huge statement about the people leading them. I am going to call them all individually by name. Thank you for letting us take that time. So kids, when you're called, come on up. We'll call the girls up first. Samantha Pereira. Emma Fian. Ella Fian. Diana Rodriguez. Haley Hannon. Sophia Voice. Sophia. Corinne Driscoll. Kateri Cordasco. Annabelle Taruso. Casey Coonley. Cassidy Wolf. Ashlyn Tate. Sadie Dewar. Geely Ripa. Emma Heiberger. Samantha Schultz. Jody Lynn Pereira. Zamara Black. Samantha Zuba. Ava D'Amelia. Lindsay Tate. Harper Pettigrew. Lauren DeSanto. And Kate Clem. And I'm going to have the girls stay standing, because as Mrs. Duran pointed out, when you see these kids practicing, technically, when we record points, they're two separate teams, but they were always one team. And one of the things she commented about was, they would be done, some of them would be done, and they would run back out to get that last runner and make sure that that last runner had someone running with them, and it did not matter if that was someone from our team or a different team. And that is the kind of kids that are standing before you and are about to stand before you. Now for our boys team, Matthew Hoffman, Jimmy Downing, Jackson Sarah, Colin Williams, Hunter Zuba, Dante Vicario, Jackson Hurt, Jalen Green, Cameron Street, Jackson Hunt, Anthony Catano, Dean Kinsing, Joseph Heng, Jonathan Wingate, Aiden Carrington, Cameron Kelly, Brody Ward, Paul Lavigna, Jesse Riley, Nick Sage, Nick Sarno, John Taylor, Colton Fable, Anthony DeSanto, and Joshua Hang. I'd also like to thank our parents, because they hauled it not only to our meets and Brigham team, but they've made those long drives. Moloka is like, I don't even know where. I just put it in Waze and you show up there. And they made a lot of long hauls to make sure they were there to support our kids. I have one parent I would like to acknowledge, came to me a couple years ago when her kids first started in our school and said, oh, after the cross-country meet, someone should bring snacks each time, and, we're going to put it out to all the parents. And she couldn't quite get a lot of momentum going with it right away, so she just showed up day after day, meet after meet, with snacks for every kid, not just for our team, but for every team and for every kid there. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Hang, who is here tonight. Her daughter Olivia probably wants to give a speech about that. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, big hand for these kids. Congratulations. We're going to take a 5-minute recess so everybody can take pictures, and if you don't want to hang around for our boring council meeting, you can take off. Thank you.
All right, you guys, you're gonna come.
Hey, does somebody want to come, some of the shorter ones want to come on in the back here? Line up a little, anybody want to come back here? One's in the back?
Yeah, Michael, hold the chair.
Hello?
That's stupid, you're gonna put it on the ground. Goes up in the front. That's what I told him. It's all gonna be underground.
I heard you made a comment, you were bringing my...
I don't know, gotta see how to do it.
Should have heard Andy.
And they're gonna probably have to and we'll let her know when she's delivered. Yeah, I had 430 votes out of, no, 490 votes out of 530. I don't know what's happening. He's got more votes than the rest of them, but they got all these fucking absentee ballots.
I'll let her know that.
He said, I have yourself for another. It's older than you are.
See? Oh, come up with some stuff, I'm gonna let you able to get something. I don't bother anymore. I don't even bother anymore. I've been shut down. You guys grinded up my credit card. Very lucky, Rob.
Hey! When are we getting that, pump station across the Paris?
See you later.
Same day?
That was very, very nice.
Yeah, it was a nice thing.
Yep. Perfect timing.
When the kids were here, I said, yep, you bring the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Told you about morphine.
2 years.
2 years.
When I asked first.
Okay, we're going to resume the 2019 November 6th meeting. Okay. At this time, we're going to open it up to the public. Anybody who wants to talk about agenda items only, come up to the microphone, name, address, and ask what, anything that's on here, and we'll give you an answer. Yes, sir. You got to come up to the microphone, state your name and address.
My name is Gary Bourne. I'm at 28 Shipmaster Drive here in
Okay.
Brigantine. I've been asked by a number of fishermen if I could take some of the mayor's and councilmen's time concerning the plight of fishermen here on the island right now.
Sir,
This-
that's not on the agenda.
It is part of beach, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, I'll let
Okay.
that go.
All right. You have about 1,600 feet of front beach from the jetty to the marker. That
Correct,
is now allowed to four-wheel drive.
correct.
No fishing allowed whatsoever. You have 2,000 feet at the cove up until the four-wheel drive marker that says no vehicles beyond this point. Up until a couple of years ago, we were allowed to fish there on the inlet in that area until you made it a lifeguarded beach and took the fishermen away. I fish with a number of young kids, disabled, and veterans during the summer. There is nowhere with a four-wheel drive that I can take them to fish except the north end, and nobody wants to be down there July and August with the greenheads. I can't take them on the jetty. These are 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. These are disabled people, but I can't put them on the jetty. What we're looking for is an area to fish during the summertime. Not asking much. I don't know if we can open more beach up there by the volleyball courts, if that could be gotten open for use, I don't know. But there is no area for these kids or these veterans or disabled to fish. There is nothing on this island. I don't have the answer. I know I'm not naive enough to say reduce the number of vehicles. I know we want that money coming in. But 6,000 vehicles for about 5,000 running feet of beach, 10 foot of beach, you're talking 600-700 vehicles maximum if they want a front row. Now we're back into 2 deep, 3 deep, 4 deep. I can't get wheelchairs to the front beach. That kind of crowd, unless I want to be out there at 7 o'clock in the morning to get a spot. And even then, when at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be told to stop fishing. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. But it has to be addressed.
Okay,
Gotta do
at this particular time, I don't have an answer for you.
I understand that, but I wanted to put it to the Brain Trust.
Okay,
Maybe we can come
I
up
think
with
we have to get the chief of the beach patrol involved, along with our city manager, and maybe we can open up a piece of the beach just for fishing only.
I appreciate that.
I will look into it, and I'll let you know.
I know you will. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Excuse me, 308 27th Street, Ann H. Phillips, and this pertains to the ordinance regarding beaches and recreational areas. And I believe this will fall within my 5-minute limit, so these are my thoughts. I think this ordinance is a step in the right direction. It's also an acknowledgement by council that problems which have festered for years need to be addressed now without any more avoidance. The Cove, one of only 3 New Jersey ocean beaches which allow vehicle parking up to the water's edge, is a small area with multiple competing activities involving crowds, water, alcohol, vehicles, and other motorized equipment. A mix rife with actual and potential disorder and public risk. First, questions have been asked regarding state and federal jurisdiction and authority in this area. I don't have the answers, and I would appreciate if you would clarify their roles and interest, if any. A consequences of none or random enforcement of laws is disrespect for the law and those whose duty it is to enforce it. Such appears to be the case at the Cove, especially regarding alcohol and some equipment. The police need to do their job professionally and respectfully and be seen doing it. Lawlessness should not be a drawing card at a local attraction. There appears to be some controversy concerning this ordinance, judging from what I've read on the internet, but good management, which is what we want to have, isn't controversial. I ask that you consider the following changes to improve conditions. Number 1, size is important, and the Cove is small. Return to the previous practice of limiting the available number of four-wheel drive permits. 6,000, which is the figure that's been given, is a lot. Yes, the city does get a lot of revenue from beach badge fees, which are needed to get a permit, and the permits. Looking at the budget for this year, realized in cash in 2018, $650,000 total for beach badges. Now remember, that's not all for the four-wheel drive badges which go with that permit. However, it's part of it. $701,000 for the permits. Now, you on council have to figure out how you handle this, the revenue, perhaps limiting the number of permits for the 2020 budget without charging the taxpayers something extra. 2, the Cove is open daily during the summer season from dawn to dusk, but only operationally from 10 to 5:30. Is 10 the earliest four wheels can enter the Cove and be checked? And if not, why not? There used to be a gate at the entrance to the Cove, from what I've been told. How about replacing it? Close it at 5:30 for vehicles. All of these things are to create a sense of order and remove some of the chaos that certainly was experienced this past summer. 3, Suspension and/or revocation of the permit, when warranted, shouldn't be discretionary, which it frequently is in provisions of this ordinance. I think I brought this up before. Instead of saying may, say shall, and remove some of that discretionary authority, because it does possibly lead to even favoritism and certainly not uniformity. 4, in several sections of the ordinance, there appears to be a conflict between the use of personal watercraft and motorboats at the cove. They're prohibited, but exceptions can also be made by a city manager, and I wondered why that was put in there. I read the 100-foot allowance, which must be applied in terms of their coming close to the beach or to people, but evidently there are exceptions that could be made by the manager. Why? Since they are part of the competing activity problem down at the cove, this should be clarified. And 5, between 10 and 5:30, shouldn't bathing and/or swimming be prohibited at a non-lifeguard beach? I believe it mentions perhaps increasing the number of lifeguards, but will be any, just as there is in the front beach. When the lifeguards are on duty, you're supposed to swim or be in the water at those protected beaches. And finally, as a final thought, passing sensible rules and enforcing them uniformly allows this small piece of public land to be enjoyed in safety and cleanliness by those who appreciate its value. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips. Anybody else? Yes, sir. First of all, I just want to, I was taken back why you talk about our police officers like that. Our police officers are probably one of the finest in the state of New Jersey. And they work very hard. They work very hard down at the Cove, the Jetty Beach, and they don't look the other way. They can't catch everything. So I'm okay with everything else you said, Mrs. Phillips, but when you go against our police officers, that's not right.
I'm sorry, since you make that statement,
Yes, sir.
If I could just say something too, I think you said something about allowing alcohol in the beginning of your speech there, which we don't allow alcohol on the beach. That's not allowed. So I think, am I correct when you said alcohol is allowed? No, alcohol is not allowed on the beach. So that's not correct. And then also, just one other thing about good management. You know, we've done a pretty good job, especially managing since we've come on board here, and we all know that we've lowered the taxes the last 5 years.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
First of all, no, thank you. My name's John Dupnock. I've been a taxpaying member of this wonderful island since 2005. And let me first say, thank you for your service.
Need your address.
Oh, I'm sorry, 343B, 39th Street South.
Thank you.
Brigantine, 343B. And let me first start by saying, yes, I worked with the Department of Labor. Okay, I've done enforcement for years. And first, let me start by saying thank you for your service. I think the police force here has done an outstanding job. And just like all the men and women sitting in front of me, I think you've done a great job. My concern as a member of this wonderful community since '05 is that I wake up in the morning and see in the news, okay, or reading the paper about a horrific event that occurred when somebody was, abusing alcohol and then hits somebody on the beach on the way out. That's my concern. I've seen, like I said, been here since '05, been coming here since I was a teenager, in the '70s. And, I've been all over the world, been from every beach, probably from Hawaii to Southern California, and I love this island. And my concern is, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have a serious safety event, which would, put a big black eye, on our wonderful borough down in Brigantine. Okay? And I hope everybody does a proactive thing to steps to keep that from happening.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
All right, I am 1315 Ray Avenue in Brigantine, obviously. I'm John Ferret. Hey, guys, I sit on the Brigantine Beach Committee Council. Hey, guys. Last meeting, I think I had to leave a little early, so I didn't get a chance to finish my thoughts. I think what we have going on for the next plan, I think is a really good idea, especially with the law enforcement. I understand that you guys are super short-handed, especially during the 4th of July weekend. I gave Vince a couple good ideas for bringing in some maybe outside help or partnering with some other local areas to see what we can do to help you guys. But my solution to the code problem, especially during the 4th of July, I'm only in Brigantine 24 years, 25 years. I'm not old. But what I suggest is, I was told there was a barricade. I'm totally supportive of that. And on top of that, I understand the whole alcohol problem. It's everyone my age, a little younger. It is a problem. I acknowledge it. I don't go down. I don't participate in those activities. What I suggest is that maybe we cap the amount of cars available. We can sell all the permits we want, but if we hit that limit, then we can shut down the beach until maybe the city
We already do
manager...
that, John. We already do that.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
I came in late. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
All
Mr.
right.
Bennett will shut it
All right, I'm
down,
good.
or the chief will. Thank you, John. Anybody else? Donna?
Don Manzan, 14 Mark Lane, and I'm also owner of
Talking to the microphone.
Oh,
Now you really hate public speaking.
because many of my boaters, jet skiers, and fisher persons are weekenders. I was asked by many to speak for them. Everyone I spoke to pretty much had the same opinion. From what they have been told, the 4th of July has sparked this initiative to change Brigantine, the island they want to love for life. To take away the boaters and jet skiers from pulling up to the Cove Beach will change the way they have enjoyed their times in Brigantine. I personally have never heard of anyone hurt by this, and my grandchildren enjoy going with their parents and swimming with their friends. They would miss this terribly and will not have the same opportunities their dad had and many others had here growing up. As far as the fisher persons go, not one of them has told me that the boaters bother them. As a matter of fact, many of the boaters fish there also. I hope that Brigantine can remain the same as we all know it, and not use one day as a means to change what we all have enjoyed. It is my understanding that the people who were partying that day walked on and did not even have four-wheel drive passes. I get that there are things that have to change, but taking these privileges away would be a mistake for our island and for the businesses as well. And I also have to say, I talked to a friend tonight, and she said that it would be great if you could come up with the portion of the Cove Beach where the jet skiers and boaters can be.
That's what we'll be doing.
They say that they're spreading all the way across, and I agree that that should not happen.
Correct.
So
Don, when I walk down there and I see a 4 or 5 year old in the water and the jet skiers coming in like this, and that kid's going to get hurt.
Yeah,
So
I
there
agree
is
with
gonna
that
be-
100%.
We're not going to tell you no boats, no jet skis. They're going to go around the other side there and they can pull up. But if they get out of hand, he's going to make a decision.
Right.
And say, okay, we're closing it down for boats today. No, it's not forever, you know. It's not all the time.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
jet skis can pull up, boats can pull up, walkers can come on. But you can't go through. My main thing here is these people who pay taxes down there, they pay anywhere from $20,000 to my friend down there pays $70,000. And for $200, you pull up to the water's edge and you got a front row seat. And you have to respect these people. They're the taxpayers. And somebody says, hey, I don't want my mom or my sister or anybody else. If you don't go down to the beach, I don't expect you to pay for security down there. So that's why we're moving the prices around. So it covers the extra police, because it shouldn't be Mrs. Jones on Quemet Boulevard that never went down on the beach paying for security down there.
Right.
It's going to be the people that use that beach. It's a privilege. And you're going through people's neighborhood, and you got to respect the neighbors. I had phone calls, I have text messages, I got emails, people urinating on people's lawns. That ain't going to happen here. I'll tell you that right now. Anybody wants to hear that? That ain't going to happen here. changing their diapers of their kids on there and throwing the diapers on the front yard. That ain't happening here. I'm telling you that right now. So,
I agree with all that.
yeah, I know you would. I know you would. I mean, you run a great operation down there, and, you know, you don't walk out and somebody's urinating in the middle of your lot, you know, so.
And like I said, I'm not normally down there because I'm
I
working
know.
all the time.
Right, you're always
So I
working,
didn't
you
know
and
that
Mike.
the jet skiers and the boaters were moving their path over to that section. They should.
Yeah, it's not, you know, we're not banning boats, we're not, see,
A lot of people had that.
people want to run government by Facebook. That ain't the reality here. You know, there's some things we tweaked in the ordinance already. Everybody knows, you're not allowed to drink down there. But as I said in the article, I'm not stupid, I know what's in that Solo cup. I own a liquor store, for crying out loud. So, I sell you the stuff. So, but when you go down there, you gotta respect our beaches, our neighbors, and the people who are paying the taxes, paying the freight. So, that's what this is all about. This ain't, you know, I want everybody to have fun. I walked that beach for months at the time. My friend back there took me down there every weekend, walked it, and Don Miller over there, he saw me every weekend down there. To talking to people. And, you know, it's not about ruining people's fun or anything like that. I'm not that.
Well, that's what I was asked.
So, we just don't want to get anybody hurt down there.
Right.
4-year-old in the water, kid just got a jet ski from his parents, he's back there with his girlfriend on the back, and he was coming in like this, and I said, oh my God, this kid's gonna run out. That's gonna be a swimming beach. That's gonna be protected by the city of Brigantine. Around the side, we'll let the boats come in. If it's a problem, that man there or that man there is gonna shut it, say, boat's gone, and the Coast Guard's gonna come over and ask them to leave.
I agree with that, 100%.
Okay.
Thank you.
So people are reading the new ordinance incorrectly, they're interpreting
Right.
it incorrectly that, oh, there's no boats or jet skis allowed. That's
Right.
not the case at all. Still going on, but in case of for safety reasons, if they gotta make the call, so that's what you can tell your, you know,
Yeah.
your boaters and jet skiers, like,
It's not-
shut down, it's not,
Okay.
We're not
I got
making
that impression.
Alcatraz out of this.
yeah, there
It's just-
are people putting out a lot of wrong and incorrect information about it.
Good, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Donna. Anybody else? Yes, sir. We might as well go right into this. And do best practice here.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Wolf, 313 33rd Street. My main concern with this ordinance change is the hours of use and the possibility of putting a gate on the entrance where you wouldn't be able to use it in the early morning hours. I am a fisherman and I'm a surfer, and most of the time, the hours of my usage are before 10 o'clock. Me and the people that I associate with mostly are gone by 10 o'clock. So that's a real concern of mine, that the cove may be closed during those hours.
Let me, you know, we're neighbors down the street there. So, John, we put this stuff in place just in case we have to use it. Just in case the 4th of July. This year, 4th of July is on a Saturday. That could be a real problem down there. So, if that man just turns around and says, hey, we gotta close the beach, that's probably when it's gonna happen. We're just putting stuff in place. So, his police officers have some control over this. So, it's not a free-for-all. And I appreciate that. I appreciate, you know, because I used to drive the beach at 4 o'clock in the morning just to clear my head and everything else, what's going on. I appreciate that, and I don't think you're gonna see any change that you notice.
Oh, okay, one other concern I have regarding that cove area, and some of you may remember, some may not. Before the four-wheel drive it really became popular, and I'm talking years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where there were no parking signs on Ocean West around Pepper Cove area. I don't remember if it was an all-day event or if it was early morning hours, because a lot of people will park there and walk on. They will now, because we utilize that beach as a swim beach. So in the future, people in the Fourth Ward may want to approach the council regarding a no parking area.
Well, that's why those yellow lines are down there, because they came to me, and the people were parking in the driveways. So close to the driveway, they couldn't get out, so we had to have a buffer there. Actually, I think Jimmy was chief of police at the time, and that's how come, those goofy yellow lines are down there. The people were going down there, Ocean Drive West, and going over to the Cove, because it was free. The Cove, you didn't have to have a beach tag. That's why they were going there. So we changed that a year or so ago, and, we'll continue to look at that information, and the neighbors, they all have my email address, and they call me as soon as possible, and we'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully nothing's going to change. I want paradise to be paradise. That's all.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Can I bring something up?
Sure.
There's some misinformation. People talk about 6,000 permits. There has never been more than 400 vehicles on that beach at any one time. Most of the time, it's less than that. And city manager and the chief of police know that if that number of 400 is reached, then the beach will be closed. But to date, even on the 4th of July, there wasn't 400 vehicles there.
Depends on the tide. It really does. Depends on the tide.
Depends on what goes on, but some people have the misconception, oh, well, you're selling too many permits, you're allowing too many people to drive the beach. Okay? It's limited to 400 vehicles, and that's a safe number for there. Okay? They've determined that, and that's the way it's going to be. Once it reaches 400, the beach is cut off. That's not where the problem arose. The problem was people walking on with 30 packs, or people driving off the beach with their pickup truck, picking up 6 or 8 people who parked their cars on the street and then shuttling them on the beach constantly all day long. And you had this movement of beer. You had a number of youths from Absecon area or EHT area that came in little small boats. They came with the styrofoam coolers full of beer. Okay? They drank their beer. They're certainly not going to go back by boat carrying empties for the police to stop them. So what did they do? They threw them on the beach. And the folks that were driving on got blamed for it, when in fact, it really wasn't them. Okay, so you have to keep an open eye on it. You can't believe what Brigantine Now tells you. You can't believe what you see on the internet, because sometimes it's not accurate. Okay? I just wanted to make that clear.
So, if I can, I just wanted to say what
I knew
Paul's
when
saying.
somebody else talked. You had.
Yeah. But no, people don't realize, the other thing is, with today's technology, the vehicles are getting scanned when they go on the beach. We know how many vehicles are on the beach at any given time. I've heard people complain, oh, we give out too many veteran 4x4 free permits. Why don't we limit it to Brigantine? Why don't we limit it to the 2nd Ward, or whatever it is? And the bottom line is, we know how many veteran permits get used at any given day, on any given day also. So when people talk about, oh, we're selling too many permits, or we're giving away too many permits for people that serve this country, and let me say another thing, as long as we're in charge, veterans will be getting free permits, 4x4 permits on this. So that's also, like Paul was saying, the city knows how many vehicles are on the beach and what the limit is and all, so that's it.
Thank you, Michael.
Generally speaking, then, Jim, it's like 3% or less?
Yeah, but the most we've ever had for veterans on the beach, and this has come up, the most we've ever had at any one time on the beach was 12. Out of 300 vehicles average on the beach, the most we've ever had was 12. And to go along with that, another number, out of the 6,000 some odd permits that people keep throwing around, only 780 of them were for Brigantine residents.
All right, right. And a very good, Paul, just to reiterate, very good point that Paul brought up regarding it's capped, right? I mean, it might be 6,000 sold, but it's capped. So all those things in conjunction with each other.
The safety determination can be made at any time. There could be 200 trucks down there. And if the police department, the officer in charge of the police department decides it's a problem, he's gonna follow up the chain, and they're gonna call me, and we'll shut it down if we have
Public safety first, right?
Right.
Thank you.
One other
okay.
misconception that a lot of people have is that we should, they'll say on the internet or on Facebook, why doesn't Brigantine charge residents less? Why don't they charge out-of-towners more? Well, we're not allowed to. The state will not allow us. We are not allowed to have two separate fees for residents and non-residents. So it's, our hands are tied there. We can't do that.
But this year, up to May 1st, from January 1st to May 1st, it will be $200, and after that, it would be $300. From January 1st, to buy your permit. So it'll go up, because there's going to be additional police officers down there. And again, we can't have Mrs. Smith sitting on Quemet Boulevard paying for security down there. The people down there, no matter if it's there or other beaches, going to pay for it. And the others, it's a money grab. It's not a money grab.
That's the other misconception.
We're not allowed to bring in more than it cost us. It's against the law. If it costs us $1 million and we bring in 700, everybody can do the math. We lost $300,000, and the taxpayers pay that, and that's wrong. So we try to get closest to what our cost is with the amount of people down there at the beach. So we want to make sure that those people that are enjoying our beach, somebody else is not paying for it. Okay, anybody else? We should have just went in right into that and talked about it. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion for today. Next one we have up is the best practice, and that's why Roxanne's here to talk about that.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Council, you may recall every year the city is required to complete a best practices inventory. The results of this survey are applied to this as a percentage to the state aid that the city receives. The best practices inventory was due on October 30th, 2019. It was filed for the first time electronically this year on October 23rd. As required, the results of the survey needs to be discussed here in an open meeting. The inventory consisted of 84 questions with 3 scoring categories. The first was core competencies, the second was best practices, and the third was an unscored survey. Core competencies address statutory and regulatory compliance obligations and other areas of sound municipal finance and financial and operations. There were 38 questions worth 1 point each. We received credit for 35 out of the 38. The next category was best practices, which involve fiscal and operational practices that are a significant benefit to municipalities, but not necessarily applicable to all municipalities. There were 15 questions worth a half point each, of which we received credit for 12 out of the 15. We scored a total of 41 points, which 30 and greater results in 100% distribution of state aid. So we met that requirement. The last group of questions had no values associated with them, and they were mostly made to determine the need of some municipalities with help from the division in areas of planning and economic development. There were a few questions, obviously, that we didn't score on, and the city manager and I have discussed briefly what we'll do in the future. Some of it a question related to social media policies and guidelines, which is a new and upcoming topic. One of the questions was reviewing all fees annually. While we review fees, we don't necessarily take all fees annually. So, and every year you have to keep in mind,
questions change, some are repetitive, some you can never anticipate. We will be submitting contracts to PERC as we come with new contracts. And the last question that I think that we missed, and I'm not sure we'll do anything about it, but the professional services contract with not to exceed amounts. That's kind of a very difficult thing. We try our best to estimate what we think it's going to cost us, but there are some professional contracts that, you know, we do an hourly contract for the rate and services. So the long and short of it is that the city, you know, totaled 41 points. 31 of the 84 questions had no points associated with them. We were short about 5 questions.
Okay. Any questions for Roxanne about best practice? Rick?
Yeah, a couple follow-ups. Roxanne, some of these you addressed, and these all have to do with items that we had answered no for. So number 10, I gather that we are going to post all of our contracts as we enter into new contracts. Can we also catch up with the backlog of prior contracts that weren't posted?
No, we have not. We have not.
I'm asking, so I had occasion to go on the site recently, and there were contracts that weren't there.
Yes, no, we haven't. I think there was a misunderstanding of how those contracts have to get posted, and we've kind of cleared that up. We really typically just have to send those contracts to PERC. Now, we have one and a form we have to fill out, but that we will do going prospectively.
When we post, that's the entire contract, right? The full text of the contract?
I would believe so, yes.
Okay. Number 15, you touched on about the fee schedules.
Yes.
Is that something that we should be, I'm gathering that they asked the question, they think we should be reviewing annually?
Well, we have a lot of fees. You know, there's a large ordinance that establishes fees, and I literally took this question is that do we go through everything annually? And the answer is obviously no. I think we try to hit the fees that we believe are deficient, but we don't go through every one of them. I guess we could try, but I don't necessarily know that we would accomplish that.
Okay. 35, you touched on about the not to exceed for professional service contracts.
Right.
Again, because they make that part of their grid, I assume they think that's something we should be doing?
Yes, and I guess I personally have some kind of an issue with this. We've tried to establish parameters where we put not to exceed amounts when we can reasonably estimate that's what we're going to spend. Some of the professional contracts are very difficult to even estimate what we're going to spend. It's on an as-needed basis. And to arbitrarily sit there and come up with a number, I'm not sure what the benefit of that is, as long as we're living within our budget. But it is something that, you know, hypothetically, I think that sometimes folks that don't actually work with the reality of things think it's easier said than done. There are some professional contracts that we don't ever go over, and we could start to put them in, but there are some that would be, I think would be very difficult to do. I don't think there's many, but there would be a couple.
Okay. 37, asked about insurance broker fees, and they appear to be recommending that we not compensate based on a percentage of costs. How, and I'm asking because I don't remember, how are we compensating our insurance brokers presently?
Well, we don't, I think we put it out to bid, and I don't necessarily know that it's not structured in a way that isn't
attached to the premiums that we pay. But we do put it out to bid, and we take whatever, I mean, we deal with whatever I guess the bidder we believe will provide the best service. It's not always necessarily
Low
the
bid.
cheapest.
Yep.
Because when you're dealing with this health insurance, especially in some areas, you know, you can't necessarily just find the cheapest way to do that.
And there's rebates involved and stuff like that. I believe we just got a check for one of ours.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Well, on that one, my question wasn't really motivated so much by concern that, you know, we'd be short-sighted in looking for the lowest bidder, but rather it seems like the comment is aimed at avoiding a situation where we're paying a fee in addition to the broker receiving whatever percentage they're getting off the contract itself, off the insurance coverage. So do we pay an additional fee right now to our broker, or are they compensated solely based on whatever is the arrangement with the health insurance provider?
There is a separate fee I believe there is a separate fee for our broker.
Do you have a sense of the magnitude of that? Are we talking 10,000, 100,000?
I don't have those numbers on me.
Okay. 50, parts A through H. Basically, they're all asking about, do we want technical assistance from the Division of Local Government Services in various areas? We've said no. Is that, well, why is that?
Well, I think we discussed the fact that I think there's many of the things that they spoke of either don't really apply to us or we are not in any need of their assistance. I'm not sure how well I thought that this part of the survey was very unusual for the state. They don't have enough, they have a hard time doing the things they have to do, and as they're trying to come up with a way to help municipalities, I don't know that they have the expertise or the staff to even approach many of these subject matters. But with discussion with the manager and I discussed all of these questions and felt that we didn't really need their assistance.
Again, I'm not reading that as a question of us saying we need or don't need. It's they have, or they purport to have, you know, free assistance for us. If we say yes and they can't deliver, we're no worse off.
Well,
all right, let's do 52 and 53. First of which has to do with electric vehicle charging stations. I understand we don't have them. Is that something that's under consideration?
It was. We had applied for a couple of grants. The only one that we were going to be awarded for was a $6,000 grant, which would have covered about a quarter of the cost of the installation, and none of the maintenance or a way for us to recoup the electric fees.
It was $25,000, right?
Just to install it was $25,000. So I've asked Jim Rutella to look into it further. There are programs out there where a vendor will install the system. They pay for the electric bill, they pay for all the upkeep and the maintenance, and hopefully we can get somewhere with that. The thing we ran into is a technical issue as well. There isn't one standard charger out there for electric vehicles yet, other than the one that plugs into your wall. So we have to try and figure out which one is the most popular that we're going to try and service if we only put one up or if we put two up. But long and short of it is, it's not a dead issue yet, but it's not something that we're going to do anytime soon.
No. And
This has been a source of discussion at Green Team a lot, and they're trying to look into different ways to fund it.
Right, there are Tesla supercharger grants out there. There are ones that are specific to Nissan. There are ones that are specific to Chevrolet. We just have to find somebody that can, you know, give us the best bang for the buck, so to speak, and the least amount of cost on our end.
And so I didn't misunderstand. Is it at least theoretically possible that an arrangement might be reached with some vendor who would basically take over that responsibility and that cost in exchange for whatever fees they can charge for providing it?
That's what we're looking at with Jim Rutel. That's what we asked him to look for. There are vendors like that out there. Whether or not we can get funding to provide that, that's a whole other story.
Okay, thanks. And last one, 53, asks about a web application allowing residents to submit service requests to municipal departments, which again, we don't have now. Is that something that we think might have some value?
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's Ventnor or Margate has it, where you can go in and put your water requests or sewer problems or public works issues in on a web page.
We have that on our information page on our website now. I get information from residents. I just got one the other day that I forwarded to Ryan, excuse me, about a bonfire on the beach.
Can we change that to a yes?
No, and where you get some of them, but there are definitely, I mean, there's definitely programs out there that people just, I don't know, they just let you know through an email or...
Correct, it's through
there
the...
are, and I thought this meant an actual, like Edmonds has a module that will allow that to be
Yeah, it's not an
in
actual web
use.
application.
So it's not really an application, it's a, I mean, you can get emails from people.
Correct. It's not
and you
a...
can turn them into work orders, but
Correct. We turn
there
them in-
are systems that actually do that for you.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else? Hearing none? I don't think we need roll call on that. Thank you, Roxanne, I appreciate that. Ordinance number 19, 2019, public hearing and adoption. This is beach and recreation areas. This is, I need a first and second on it, please. So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anybody want to talk about the beach ordinance again? You know, I think we already had that big discussion.
And if I may, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, during your regular public comment, you received public comment on this ordinance. It may be that the clerk could cross-reference in the minutes those comments, because those comments really were intended as comment on this ordinance.
Correct.
Just so the record is maintained.
Correct. I was actually going to stop them and just go to that, and so we could talk about it, because council got engaged in it, and so did the public. Okay, seeing nobody from the public. Council, I mean, we just had the discussion about it. Anybody want to... Rick, you have something?
Yeah. Of course.
I didn't say anything.
My target, however, is engaged in conversation.
Your target. Okay. Which one?
Fred, of course.
Okay, Fred, you're under...
Target, not in any kind of adversarial sense. As you, fellow council members, will remember from our discussion on the first reading adoption, there were a couple of things that I thought we might want to or should address in the ordinance. And I promised I would send comments, which I belatedly did on Sunday, to our manager and to Fred and Mike Koski. Those comments have not made their way into the version we have in front of us, which is not fatal, because if my comments or something council agrees should be incorporated, it can certainly be caught up with after the fact as an amendment to what would be tonight's adopted version. And in that regard, I gather we're going to be revisiting this almost right away anyway, because we have a section presently in this version dealing with ice cream vendors, which is not consistent with the way we handle ice cream on the beach. So we, assuming, as I'm sure will happen, as we all favor this, assuming that we adopt this ordinance tonight, we are going to be revisiting it very soon, and I would like... Oh, Fred says no.
Well, let me just... The concept you're discussing is correct, but I don't know that we're going to be revisiting this ordinance. We're having a conversation about the ice cream vendor issue, and what we're doing tonight is adopting this with the language that is in there. which is not new language, it's old language, but rather than having to amend this ordinance, we're just going to let it sit there for the moment. However, we are in the midst of a discussion about amending the entire process relating to ice cream vendors, and that conversation has taken us to the point where we are considering possibly putting that in the mercantile ordinance. So I don't know that the ice cream provisions at the end of the day will reside in Section 105. It may very well go to the mercantile ordinance, and as we're looking at the mercantile ordinance, the question that we will ask ourselves is whether we just add the ice cream vendors or whether we do a more holistic review of the mercantile ordinance in its entirety, because that also could use some updating. That is at a discussion level right now, but that's the direction that we're going, so it may not come back to this ordinance.
I like the holistic approach. But at a minimum, if we do anything with it, we would have to at least amend this ordinance to excise the provisions,
Have to come out.
which may find a home somewhere else or may not. Okay. And even if we weren't going to do that, if that wasn't going to be part of our next steps, there are a couple of items that I've identified in an email to our manager and to Fred. And I'm just going to touch on them briefly here. These are things that I would like to see addressed. A few of them are, I won't say technical, but they're more minor language changes to clarify things, and basically two substantive, what I regard as substantive changes. The first, I think, is in the category of technical, but still necessary. In Section 4, that would be 105-4 of the ordinance we have in front of us, we enumerate a variety of different kinds of permits that people can obtain for different activities on and related to the beach. We overlooked horse riding. Horse riding traditionally was something for which you would get a permit, and obviously it happens on the beach. I just think we would need to plug in, I think we have sections A through G now, maybe it ends up being A through H, just to indicate that amongst the kinds of permits that one might get, horse riding permit is one of them, and probably just carrying forward the substantive provisions that we already have in the ordinance that deal with, what happens with your permit, what your rules and regulations are.
I think at a staff level, in our review, we felt that the horse riding would fall within the special events permit, so that if you wanted to ride the horse, you can go and get a permit for it. It does live there.
Well, okay, but we did have an entire body of regulations and conditions that dealt with horse riding. If we want to eliminate those and just leave it in the discretion of the manager on a special events application, I don't particularly care, but we got to do something with it. And if it's going to be covered by a special event permit, then I would just want to call that out. But you might want to keep the provisions you already have, because they seem to be working perfectly fine for the horse riding.
Don't we have on page 16, number 24 right there about horse riding and...
Yeah, you have an indirect reference to it, but you don't have anywhere in here any of the provisions that say horse riding is a permit you can get, and when you get it, here are the conditions that apply. We're just kind of indirectly alluding to the fact that there's something called a horse riding permit, but that's the only mention. All right, the next is purely a language change to clarify in Section 4B, Part 5. We have and this talks about rules and regulations for auto permits. It says, the wording is, the following rules and regulations shall be observed concerning the operation of four-wheel drive vehicles upon the beaches. And then we have a listing of things, one of which is to fail to enter or exit from a location or locations designated by the City Council. The disconnect there is that the introduction to all these things, which are prohibited acts, needs to say something like, when you get a vehicle permit, you shall not do, along with the other rules that apply, you shall not do the following things. Otherwise, it almost reads like we're telling people you have to exit from, or you have to, to fail to enter or exit from designated locations, or that you have to operate your vehicle over 15 miles per hour. It's simply a language thing. You have to put the negative in there, which is not presently in it.
So, hey, Rick, do you mind me asking, when we met on the third Wednesday of October, and Jimmy asked us to submit any kind of questions or things that we had, did you submit him any of these things?
As I mentioned at the start, Mike, I did. I was a little late with it, but I sent them over the weekend.
Thanks.
And again, these are things which, the first two, I don't think, are controversial at all, because they are really just clarifications and corrections. And they can be incorporated at a later date.
Okay, Councilman, does it help what you are just discussing if we, within the confines of the municipal beaches, recreational areas, rules and regulations, where we have a numerical list that originally went up to item 29, that these things were violations? If we include a 30 that says to violate any provision of this chapter, including but not limited to the rules and regulations contained within 105-4 of the chapter, if we incorporate those by reference in this other section where the actual violations are defined.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, we
have
have that in.
You end up at the same place, but, say you end up at the same place, but that would only really be necessary if you plan to incorporate this specific change tonight. And we said we're going to add a number 30, which says, I mean, if we're going to revisit it anyway, at some point we could change this language either in this place or in number 30.
I have a 30 in a draft that I have that I believe accommodates the concern you're expressing.
Right. If we,
and I think originally we were operating on the premise that rules and regulations are those things that need to be adhered to, and if they're not, then that is a violation. The language you're pointing out specifically does not call it out as a violation, but I believe by adding the language that I just shared that I believe should become item 30, that will do that.
Yeah, there's no magic language. As long as we end up saying it's clear so nobody can later say, well, it wasn't clear to me that I could not do that.
So there are, Mayor, a number of amendments from October 16 until now. Nothing dramatic, but there are a number that have already been added in what was most recently circulated to council. If we include in that the language that I just called out, that would become in that relevant paragraph, item 30, that also can be part of the amendment package this evening.
Okay.
That solves that problem.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Wait, would that be 31, Fred, or 30? I'm looking at 30.
I believe that what I have just described would be 30 because that paragraph with the numerical listing originally went to 29.
Okay, the version I'm looking at now has a 30 that's about conducting commercial activities.
I'm sorry.
Oh, whatever the number.
Councilman Reardon was asking me something on the side. Go ahead, sir.
The version that I have here, which maybe is not the current one, has already a number 30, which is about conducting commercial activities on the beaches unless authorized by council. So,
Fred, you
the only
have
difference
the
is there'll be
updated
a-
one with the addendum amendments in there?
This is my...
You have the updated one, Fred, with the amendments and everything?
Which one did we drop? Yeah, this is it. Okay.
Are we okay, Fred?
We're in the same place.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take a look at whether it should be 30 or 31, but in terms of substance, that is the substance that deals with the issue.
Correct. Okay. Any more?
That's 15. Two more, Mayor. One of which, and this was something I did mention at the last meeting, in section 5G4C, where we create a prohibition against vehicle loitering at the end of Lagoon Boulevard in anticipation of the beach opening, or the Cove opening. I had suggested that maybe we need to expand that no loitering area because people obviously will simply move their vehicles to a different street nearby or a couple feet further up Lagoon and loiter there, and you have the same impact on traffic. I'm open to how we want to approach that. You could name individual streets, I guess, or you could just create a zone, say within X number of feet, maybe a couple hundred feet, of the entrance to the cove, you won't have any vehicle loitering, waiting for the cove to open. The whole purpose of that being just to prevent, traffic tie-ups, where, people say, well, okay, I'm not at the end of Lagoon Boulevard, but I'm right over here on Horizon Lane, or I'm on Ocean Drive West, causing the same problems. I lost track.
Okay, I understand what you're talking about, Councilman. What section are you in, just to get me focused?
That one is section 5G4C.
5.
What page?
That is page 17?
17, yeah.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen your comment and discussed it. I don't know that at a staff level there was any effort to amend that. I think the focus was that this was something that happens on Lagoon Boulevard, and that we also, in looking at it, that if there are proper parking places there was nothing that would prohibit someone from parking in a legal parking space.
To an extent, true. And I know you're a jetty guy, not a cove guy. But at the end of Lagoon, you have basically a turnaround next to Brighton Drive and an access point.
There's a cross hatch there.
Yeah, there's no parking there.
Yeah.
Now, you do have parking on surrounding streets. It's limited, but, there's parking, particularly on Lagoon, has most of your available parking spots. So I wasn't thinking in terms of, prohibiting parking, but that the thrust of the ordinance seemed to be, as it's, presently worded, would be that we're saying that people can't basically, stay in their car, but have it, ready to go onto the beach at the end of Lagoon Boulevard, which we don't define, but, and my suggestion is, if the purpose is to prevent, cars from queuing and from presumably, blocking traffic or making traffic more difficult, once all the available legal spots are gone along Lagoon Boulevard, which is what happens on the really busy days, you get backups sometimes, that we could establish basically a zone within which you can't do that. You can't be waiting in your car and loitering. If you want to park your car in a legal spot, that's fine. But beyond that, once you're in the roadway and you're loitering or waiting for the cove to open, you can't do that, or I'm suggesting we should prohibit them from doing that within some distance of the cove entrance.
That's what this does.
Well, it says the end of Lagoon Boulevard, which...
Right.
Councilman, Chief Reed, they're out in the roadway, not in a legal spot. We don't need any ordinance or anything like that.
I was just going to say that. If it's improper or unsafe parking or driving,
That would be the...
Tommy would be down there enforcing that stuff. Well, maybe not Tommy.
Are these, okay.
Near the end of the Lagoon, like by Harbor Court or maybe a little further up, where they're double parked.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next question?
I'm sorry, Mike, are I boring you?
Not boring. You want to change the traffic now, Rick.
What's he talking about?
Stop.
All right, so, yes, Title 39 gives the police the authority to do that. Why do we not want to call it out and make it specific to the extent that people might be doing things which aren't in violation of Title 39? You can't be, it's possible, I think, at some points you could be in your car, not parked, but in a zone which is not marked against stopping or standing, and then the police hands might be tied. If you make it simple that you can't be doing this within a certain distance, people just aren't going to do it, because if you're far enough back, it's pointless to you to queue up there. All right, the last...
The person that's next in line when it gets closed off, you're going to make them turn around and go all the way back down the back of the line?
Well,
You're
I
not
don't think
gonna
you'd run into that
You're not
situation.
going to reverse everybody.
Isn't the situation you run into that it's not yet open, so people are queuing up before it's open?
With safety.
So, you know,
How often are we not going to open it, though, at 10 o'clock?
Well, we probably wouldn't unless we have,
Right.
unless we have an event on the
Saturday, 4th of July.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue.
We don't let them on. But again, the police are gonna have officers down there. We're not gonna allow people to block intersections. We're not gonna allow them to double park and block up the big boulevard. It's my understanding, the intent of this particular section was to keep that immediate area clear, which is already clear with the crosshatches and the handicap spot that's there. But this is just,
That seems to be more of a traffic issue than a beach issue. Yeah.
And the word will spread. Everyone will know.
and the last of my comments deals with Section 5E21. That's the new provision about the right to inspect coolers, and am I reading it correctly that...
What page, Rick?
15. Am I reading it correctly that we are saying that if you have a cooler that is larger than 2 feet in any of the 3 dimensions, or which has a capacity of 36 quarts or greater, that we have the right to inspect that if we have inspected it at some point, whether it's at your point of entry or sometime, while you're on the beach, that, you can have a cooler of that size there. So we're not prohibiting a cooler larger than that. We're simply saying if you have a cooler of this size or greater, we can inspect it.
Correct.
correct.
Now, where did we come up with that particular dimension? And the reason I'm asking is, as an experiment, I just took a cooler at our house, which meets those dimensional standards, to see how many beers we could fit in it, then emptied it and did it again. And you can fit a lot of beers in a cooler. And already on social media, where I am not, but members of my family are, I've been told there's strategies being discussed publicly for how you get around this, one of which would be to get a cooler which is close, but not over the limit.
But drinking's illegal on our
Yeah.
beach, no matter if it's 1 beer or 30 beers.
Right, but Andy, I think historically one of the problems we've run into is that you can't necessarily detect, if you have a cooler right now, we can't look in it, so we don't know who it is that has the liquor, and unless they're drinking in front of us directly out of the bottle or can of beer or whatever, if they have the red Solo cup or some other kind of container that you can't identify, it becomes real difficult to make the case that they have alcohol in their possession. So just, not surprisingly, it seems like people, just in anticipation of us or adopting this, have already started to come up with ways, and you know what, they're not too far off. If we can only inspect a container of a certain size, then I'm guaranteeing you'll just see people with more containers of a smaller size, knowing that at the initial point where by inspection we might be able to stop some of the alcohol making it onto the beach, that they're going to get past that checkpoint because there won't be a checkpoint for them. So why would we not want to consider giving our people the right to inspect all containers?
You don't need...
Because, well, Mike, if you're not going to have the 17-year-old bringing the 30-pack down on his shoulder, but you might have 6 17-year-olds carrying coolers that are of conforming size, bringing their beer to the beach.
In a way, these are tools to aid law enforcement, and what we really want to do is, when there's people engaging in disorderly conduct and things of that nature, that's where we're going to grab the bull by the horns. And that's not to say that anything that's illegal is advocated in no way, shape, or form. So I don't think we want to get too litigious with this thing, too crazy with it, so to speak.
I respectfully disagree. We already have an enforcement policy that if somebody's disorderly, the police or whomever, they're on them.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not looking the other way.
Sure.
We add an inspection provision because we recognize that, for whatever reasons, up till this point, it hasn't really been very difficult to get large amounts of alcohol down to the beach. Not necessarily openly, because you would stop if somebody has a 30-pack on their shoulder. The police are going to stop them heading onto the beach. But, it's pretty simple to get around. You have coolers, of all different sizes. If you want to put your alcohol in there, historically, people have done that. And I'm saying that we have now given ourselves, or we purport to give ourselves, the right to inspect the largest of those containers, but that's going to be subverted pretty easily because people are just going to go to slightly smaller containers and maybe more of them. And then where are you? Then you're stuck with a system that hasn't worked to anyone's satisfaction in the past, which is hoping, well, you don't hope that people act out, but when they do, if that's a public thing, that gives the police an opportunity to address it. But short of that, if we don't have the right to ascertain going in that people are not violating the rules, and one of the rules, as was pointed out, you can't have alcohol on the beach, period.
Correct.
So people are bringing alcohol on the beach, we know that. We're not looking to do a police state, but if we tie our own hands, then I would predict absolutely no diminishment in the amount of alcohol that makes its way onto the beach. It just makes it down in a different container, different quantities, and maybe takes 2 trips instead of 1. But
Okay. Chief, give us some input on that. What do you believe?
Well, I mean, I see the councilman's point. I mean, if you're going to make a thing where you give us the ability to search the cooler, we probably shouldn't have it on a certain size. I mean, like I said, we're not going to be just sit there searching every single cooler that comes onto the beach, but like he said, if we have a cooler that size, like say you bring smaller ones, just say we have the ability to search your coolers.
Right.
Maybe you shouldn't put in a certain size cooler, and it still gives us the ability to search it. If it's legal, I don't even know if it's legal.
That's where I'm going. Well, he was the next one I was going
earlier, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Fred.
You can search any cooler you want if you have probable cause.
Right.
So that is the point. I mean, if it's a smaller cooler and you have probable cause, you can still search it. This is to establish a line where you can, just because of what is in the ordinance, have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
But it's not as though this abandons all enforcement on an 18-inch cooler, because if those who are in and around the 18-inch cooler are behaving or showing some reason as to why there should be an investigation of that 18-inch cooler, that's probable cause and it can still be done, right?
Yeah.
which, Fred, is the power our police have always had and will always have. If probable cause in a given case is established based on, whatever factors, the conduct of people, something you observe, of course the police have the power to enforce that. We are, however, we're going part of the way beyond that. We are saying we have an affirmative right to inspect certain types of coolers. That, we're saying, by putting this in here, that's basically exempted from the probable cause requirement, that if you have a cooler of that size, we are going to be able to search it. And and I think that stands up to legal scrutiny if somebody wanted to challenge it. And I also think you can't differentiate, if you searched based on this ordinance, and a non-probable cause situation, if at some point right, so it's probable cause, you're covered. So if we search a cooler and somebody says, well, that's an illegal search. Your provision there is not legal, it doesn't give you the right to inspect, and that's the fight you have in a court. Well, you can have that fight with this ordinance, with restricted to coolers this size. The legal principle wouldn't be any different. If we have the right to inspect anything coming onto the beach based on the fact that it is a privilege that we're granting by way of either a four-wheel drive permit or a beach tag permit, and if we have identified to people that this is something that you're going to have to abide by, one of the rules and regulations is that you can't have alcohol on the beach, and another rule and regulation is that we have the right to inspect to ensure that you're in compliance with that. If legally that's not a sound thing, it does not make any difference that we're restricting it to one size cooler or all coolers. It's the same legal principle. And if somebody wants to challenge it, they'll challenge it and either make it or not make it.
Okay, let's have opinions of the council, and we'll have a voice resolution. Do you want to keep at one size that we have now, 36 quarts, or do you want to limit it to any size coolers? Can I have roll call, please?
I'm a little confused.
I just want to go
I'm just
down
gonna-
and get opinions.
The legality again.
There's four different issues, I'll let Craig explain this. It's partially with what Rick said and what Tom said, with having to have reasonable suspicion at the very least to check. When we had our meeting and talked about this before. Councilor Kowski said that basically we do not have the legal authority to order people to open their belongings for search. However, you can set a parameter.
Okay, I got you.
Baseline.
Gotcha.
Lynn, we're going to do a voice resolution on just the cooler.
Okay, we already had the introduction. We already-
Yeah, and we're going to table that for right now until we figure out what size cooler we're going to put in. Is that okay for you, Fred?
Yeah, this is, I think this is more in the nature of a council discussion. To
Right.
get from council what their sense is as to where this is.
Well,
I say leave it like it is, like it's written, because that gives you the right without a suspicion.
Okay, okay.
Right, am I
Paul?
correct on that?
Yeah, we were okay with that when we put it in.
Paul?
I understand Councilman Murphy's, you can enter the stream by a small bucket versus a large container.
With
But-
ice or without ice?
Yeah, with it, that's right. I don't know, if legally we have to establish a size, then I go with it the way it is. But I also feel it's the same thing, if there is some suspicion, you should be able to look at anything.
Well, you are.
Well, that is.
You are.
That is.
That's all
In
reason.
another
That's all
ordinance-
reason.
In another part of the ordinance, you're limiting picnic baskets for picnic, you know.
Or you're not supposed to
Councilman.
eat the beach either.
Right, we're not supposed to be eating it.
Councilman, there's a difference between suspicion and reasonable suspicion. The cops can't just walk up and, because somebody looks hinky, say, open your cooler. Or at the gate, the gate guard or the Class 2 special who's there, you know, doesn't like the fact that 4 people have 8 coolers. That's not reasonable suspicion. They need more than just, ooh, you know, this doesn't sit right to open it. So by establishing this baseline, now, if somebody comes with a larger cooler than what's there, we can say, hey, if you want to bring this on, fine, you have to open it. We had to establish some type of a baseline in order to get around, basically, the Fourth Amendment.
I agree with that.
Right, the baseline. Yeah, that does it, right there.
Okay, so you're in favor of the 36 quart. Dennis?
Yeah, I want to just leave it as it is as well. And what I spoke about earlier, really, when the evidence comes about, when you get like 4 or 5 calls and everybody's calling like, hey, we got some real knuckleheads here, and we got a real problem on our hands, you got to get somebody down here and take care of it. I mean, those are the things in real police work, in the real world that occur. And I can speak from experience, and Chief Rehill obviously knows this as well as Jim over there, Jim Bennett. And this is just like I said earlier, it's just one of the tools in the whole mass of this ordinance, just to help law enforcement and just to make things, just one more tool that's in there. I mean, the main thing that's going to occur is when somebody really does engage in disorderly conduct or any other type of criminal activity that needs being taken care of, that's when it'll move to that point of reasonable suspicion or probable cause when the police get down there and investigate. So, let's leave it as is.
Rick, I'm assuming you're a no and you want to be able to do anything.
Your assumption is a sound one, Andy.
Okay.
But let me just point out too, I'm not sure where this baseline concept came from, but it really doesn't have anything at all to do with Fourth Amendment and legal searches versus illegal searches. If we're basically, and it's arbitrarily, establishing that a container of this size is going to be subject to search, what is the basis? How does that establish anything approaching reasonable suspicion or probable cause?
Let me put this in perspective, and maybe this will be helpful and maybe not. What we are doing here is prohibiting the 24-inch cooler from coming on the beach. That's what this does. If you permit a search of it, you may be able to get around that prohibition.
What is
that simple?
Okay, but what is the nexus between the prohibition and the search? We're prohibiting it, why? Because we fear that there's some basis that that container, more than any other container, is going to be used to violate one of the rules of the beach?
Yes, and that's a decision that's being made here.
I understand where it's being made, but it's not you can't make the connection. Probable cause is going to be the same argument and the same issue, whatever size container we're talking about. If we establish, and we would not be doing it based on the size, but if we establish that we have the right to inspect a container, we're doing that, or would be doing that, on the basis that this, unlike, let's say if you're on the street, and we can't do just, stop and frisk. Somebody on the street, you can't just say, hey, let me see if you got something on you. Obviously, you have to have reasonable, articulable suspicion and take it from there. We, however, are in a different situation where this is a privilege that's extended to people. And as part of a privilege, you can have reasonable conditions. One reasonable condition is we reserve the right, or would be, that we reserve the right to check to make sure that you're not bringing onto the beach something that you're not allowed to have on the beach. Now, if that argument is going to fail on Fourth Amendment grounds, it's going to fail in the current version with the 2x2 restriction, or if we had a restriction that, or I'm sorry, if we didn't have any restriction on size, but rather said that we can inspect all containers. And if we're going to have that fight, sooner or later, somebody who's not happy with being inspected and turned away may bring that fight. But I think that there's not a legal basis, or is not a sound basis to differentiate between a cooler of a certain size versus coolers of smaller size, certainly not in Fourth Amendment terms, and not in terms of whether or not in the first instance we can establish the right to inspect. So, and the practical reason, as they started with, is people are going to get around that. The restriction looks nice, feels nice. People are just either not going to bring coolers of that size, then they will use smaller coolers and the situation won't change in the slightest. Or somebody who's, maybe more litigious will bring a cooler that maybe has beer in it, or maybe not. Maybe they'll just bring a cooler that has nothing in it except a couple sandwiches, and then say, you didn't have the right to search me, you're violating my civil rights, and I'm going to sue you. I mean, neither of those outcomes makes any sense for us if our
So you're
goal
not in
is to
favor of
minimize.
it, right, Rick?
I'm sorry?
You're not in favor of the way it is now?
You picked her up on that.
Yeah, I picked that up.
I already have you now.
Sure.
Mike?
Are you, listen, we live in a family resort, 70% second homeowners. People and kids come to the beach to have a good time. And the way it is now, I think we're covered on what we want to, how we want to improve the ordinance from the way it was. So I don't think we need to get obsessed over the fact that people may get around it and this and that. And so I'm definitely in favor of leaving it alone, especially after hearing legal counsel and Police Chief Rehill and former Police Chief Bennett. As long as we're have less government and continue to cut the taxes like we did the last 5 years, then I think we're good.
Okay, so we're going to keep it in the way it is, 2 foot by 2 foot, 36 quarts. So Lynn, we're going to have roll call with, give me some of the highlights here there, Fred, where we're going to amend.
I believe, Mayor, the first thing that you
We have to amend.
are the amendments.
Correct.
And these were amendments that were put in. They are not substantial amendments. They are relatively minor amendments. When council goes to amend on second reading, you can amend without going back to the beginning. The only thing that forces you to go back and start over is if you are substantially altering the substance of the ordinance.
Correct.
These things do not substantially, alter the substance of the ordinance. They are consistent with the overall intent of the ordinance. So that's why we can go forward tonight, even though there have been amendments. Would you like me to click through what you've actually done over these 2 weeks as a few amendments have been added and then circulated by the manager? Or?
No. They got it.
We've got it.
We got it.
As amended.
Well then, if that is the case, you may want a motion to amend what you approved on October 16 in accordance with the document you received recently, which contains the amendments. If you want those amendments itemized, I can do that. If council is comfortable going forward without me itemizing.
Everybody received them. I have no problem going forward with the amendment.
Then you need a motion to amend, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Now, roll call, please.
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
DeLucre?
I'm going to vote yes, because I've been pushing for changes to the Cove and other area regulations for a really long time, and it's nice that finally people have caught up with that. However, and I'd like to be wrong in this, but what are the odds? I think we're going to see that the prohibition on coolers of certain size is not going to help us with the underlying problem of too much alcohol finding its way to the beach and down the throats of people who then act the way people act when they've got too much alcohol. And all the other problems that we all recognize and agree should not be happening in that neighborhood and the impacts that it has on the people. So I think we're missing the boat on that part of it. However, I'm voting yes.
Reardon?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the mayor, because since the situation happened on July 4th weekend, Andy really took this situation, took the bull by the horns, and the amount of work that he put in, walking the beaches, organizing meetings with the Marine Police, the Coast Guard, the local, our police department, the lifeguards, Public Works, the city manager, and having us involved in the thing. And then also, Jimmy, as the city manager, with all the work you put in with Fred and Mike, I want to thank you also. It's a fabulous job. And the way it is now, I think it's wonderful. We've put some things to improve public safety. We don't want to turn this thing into like going to an Eagles game or an event where they search your coolers or this kind of thing. That's certainly not what a day of going to the beach is about. So with all that being said, I'll vote yes. Thank you.
Mayor Simpson?
I'm going to vote yes, and we always have the right to go back and amend anything, any ordinance or anything. So if the police have more problems, this is a work in progress, and I don't want to overkill, but I do want to take care of the taxpayers down on Ocean Drive West, and the whole Fourth Ward, to be honest with you, because they drive through there, and they have to respect the whole neighborhood, and they're guests in our town, so I'm voting yes.
Motion carried.
No, that was a motion.
That was the amendment.
to
That was the
amend.
amendment.
If council wishes a motion to adopt the
I need
ordinance
a,
on
I need
second
a
reading
motion
be in
to
order.
adopt
So moved.
first and second.
Second.
Can I have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
I just wanted to add that, obviously, this is a multifaceted ordinance, but the main gist of this thing is just to improve the police presence down there and the awareness of everybody else involved. All the beachgoers, everybody just having a good time, and that's what it's going to boil down to in the end. I mean, we could look at a lot of things and parse them different ways in here. I mean, Rick at times brings up some good points, different things, but those could be what you brought up as far as the way that one thing was stated in a contrary manner. But really, it's just going to boil down to the police presence, and everybody's going to know, and just keep things cool. Everyone's going to know, hey, the law is going to be as it always was, no alcohol on the beach, behave yourself. Yes, I vote yes.
DeLucre?
I want to thank Councilman Haney for that backhanded compliment. And I will vote yes with the reservations previously expressed.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody, for that, and thanks for all the hard work. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance number 21, 2019, the introductory of flood remediation assistance grant from FEMA.
We're skipping 20.
Skip one.
We're skipping 20.
Remove number 2, the handicap.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that's okay. We're going to go right to the, I have to write whatever I want.
Yeah.
We're going to go right to ordinance number 21. And here, first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
This is 20, correct?
No, we're going to 21, and then we're going to come back to 20.
Okay.
Any questions on the FEMA? Can I have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Ordinance number 20, public hearing and adoption of removal of a handicap parking spot. First and second, please.
So moved.
We're removing this because the person that used it is passed away. Can I have a roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolution 22, introductory estimate of the golf course utilities in the city of Brigantine. Eliminated, I'm sorry. I need a first and second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah. I had some email exchange and discussion with the manager about this. The genesis of this is what, just in terms of costs and benefits? I'll put that in the form of a question. What is the benefit versus the cost of us doing this?
I'll give you two right now. We had a storm a week ago. For the last 3 days, we had approximately 10 guys and a few trucks down at the seawall shoveling sand. Why we have a piece of equipment at the golf course that we're not allowed to use because the city's not allowed to use because it's a golf course piece of equipment which the city owns. Well, and yesterday, the lady next to you could explain. Lights were out, the door wasn't open, and we didn't get any cooperation from the city of Brigantine because it was the golf course responsibility. So as of tonight, it will be John Doring and his team's responsibility. So there's two quick things that we can take care of in-house, and we're not a business where we have to have a tax write-off or, you know, we're shoveling money around or anything like that. So it's very, it helps, I guess, or does it help you in your financial? I never asked you that before, but that's Roxanne.
Well, quite frankly, the city picks up the shortfall if there is one to begin with. But the economies of trying to utilize staff in public works makes a whole lot of sense when it comes to sharing services and responsibility. It does make my life a little bit easier, but that's not the reason, obviously, to do something.
That's not the reason I'm doing it. Yeah.
But it will have, the city's budget will have the revenue and will have a budget for the golf course. It just will not be a separate utility.
Can we go back to the point, Andy, you made about us not being able to use a piece of equipment? How are we legally restricted when utility is created by the city, owned by the city, and managed by way of a contract between the city and a vendor? I mean, who would own that piece of equipment that could prevent any other department of the city from using it?
As I understand it, we're not allowed to use our public works on the golf course or their pieces of equipment that's under the utility pays for the pieces of equipment.
Right? That doesn't sound right, because I remember 4 or 5 years ago when, I don't know if it was Leon or Roxanne, but, and maybe it was more than 4 or 5 years ago, began to allocate to the utility a bit of the expense that was incurred for services provided by the different departments of the city, and I think even putting a small portion of council's costs on there in the theory that, you know, some of what we do relates to that utility. But legally, we could have, I think, and Fred, tell me if I'm wrong, at any given point, depending, of course, on manpower, et cetera, if something needed to be done at the golf course, what would the prohibition have been against Public Works doing that? Again, subject to, you know, them not having the manpower or what have you, but, I mean, there's not a prohibition, so we're not...
So, Rick, what's the negative of taking it out of the utility?
Well, there may not be any, but, you know, I like to know when something is being done, what's our thinking? What did we perceive to be a benefit or a detriment? And the benefit that was identified, I'm not following, because I don't know that that was ever a restriction, or how it could be a restriction when, you know, we're the city. We created the utility, and as Roxanne just pointed out, financially, whatever utility can't supply to cover its own costs, if that happens, we pick up.
There's no harm in taking it out of the utility.
There's no benefit.
That's not the paraphrase, Andy. My paraphrase was, or you're going to paraphrase it, could someone tell me the reasoning? If the reason was the ones that were just stated, I'm not sure I see that. That doesn't mean I wouldn't say we could do it, but...
John Doring, what's your belief in using their equipment, using their manpower? Can you take those guys that working down there now, if it's snowing out, can you take them to use as shoveling snow for the city of Brigantine?
No.
Okay.
So...
And under this...
Why?
Under my scenario, can you take those guys and go let them work for the city of Brigantine?
Yes.
Again, not saying I'm against it. I'm
Right.
probably going to vote,
Yeah.
probably going to vote for it, but
Yeah,
I...
but don't, you know, just-
What, somebody's got to explain to me, or I'd like if somebody could explain to me, why do we think that there has ever been any prohibition on our using
They're
equipment
not
facility?
employees of the city.
Right.
They're employees.
I'm not talking about, no, I understand, the ACIA hires the people in the courts, but if we're talking about a piece of equipment, we own that. ACIA doesn't own that.
No, they do.
Yeah,
They own the piece.
For the management agreement, they have control over all of that, I think.
Well, they have control physically because it's a management agreement and, you know, they use the equipment for golf course purposes, but if
We
it's
don't-
not being used and we need it, they can't say no, it's our equipment.
This way, we won't even have to get permission.
Right. We are the...
It's all going to be
Well,
part of Johnny's responsibility.
I don't, okay, but I don't perceive that getting permission to use stuff has ever really been an issue because I bet we've not asked, and if we did need
I don't
something,
know
we
why it was
probably
put
just
in
took
there
it.
to begin with. So,
All right.
Okay. Can I have roll call, please?
You,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Come on,
Based
Rick.
on the fine...
Rick, it doesn't
Based
hurt.
on the fine, comprehensive explanation that was provided of the basis for this, yes.
Reardon,
if Rick agrees with it, I'll vote yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Thank you, Rick, and, yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2019-183. Insert of special item of revenue, Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant. First and second, please.
So moved.
Second. Any questions about the grant? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
You,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Always a good thing to keep our men and women of law enforcement safe, you know, like over time, these material within these vests can actually like break down some of the Kevlar pieces, so always good to stay up to date, obviously, and I vote yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2019-184, authorizing an agreement with the ACIA for the CDBP grant program. First and second, please.
So moved.
Second. Jimmy, you want to tell us what the CDBG program is?
Yes, Mayor, it's a community development block grant from the ACIA. What this is going to allow us to do is continue our ADA curb cuts on West Beach Avenue. We had previous round of funding for it. Now we have received more. I think we have a total of 63,000?
This like 2 years of stuff?
Yeah, we've actually 2 years
Yeah,
of grants, and we already had put in for the 2019, plus we have some DOT funding. So our goal is to get as much of West Beach Avenue's curb cuts done and ADA compliant as possible.
All right, that's great. Can I have roll call, please?
You,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Abstain.
Reardon,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2019-185, insert a special item of revenue, FY 2018 Community Development Block Grant. First and second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri? Yes. Haney?
Yes.
Dewey?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
2019-186, adoption of technological risk management standards, New Jersey exceed limits joint insurance fund. Have first and second, please. So move. This is Tier 1, and the next one is Tier 2. Just want to tell you that up front. Tier 1, you want to explain what Tier 1, we're at Tier 2, aren't we, Jimmy?
Yeah, we've been at a Tier 2 for a few years, Mayor. Unfortunately, the mail and the JIF make us do an adoption for Tier 1 first, so it's really just a formality to recognize that we moved up into Tier 2. I can go through it line by line, but simply put, we meet or exceed all the standards that the mail and the JIF require for data security, backup, physical security, everything from user logins to administrative access to who's allowed to even go into the server room, both here and the police department where they have their own network. And what this does is being compliant. If we do have some type of a cyber breach that costs the city money, we will be entitled to coverage.
Okay. Any questions?
Do we have a second? I heard Dennis move.
Second.
Mike
Thank
Reardon.
you.
Yep. Can I have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Dewey?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
This is Resolution 2019-187, adoption of technology risk management, Tier 2.
So moved.
Second.
Can I have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Dewey?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes. Resolution 2019-188, 2019 budget transfer, appropriation transfer.
So moved.
Second. Move on. Okay, good. Thanks. We got a second?
Yep.
Okay. Roxanne, you want to talk about this? I guess you're just sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Mayor. Well, as you know, when we establish a budget, at some point in time, you do your best estimates of where you think you're going to incur the cost. There are some times that you need to move money around because calculations are a little off. You know, in utilities, maybe you need to reclass amongst them. But in the scheme of things, in almost a $30 million budget, this is a transfer of $58,000. So it's just plugging up little holes.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Roxanne? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Dewey?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2019-189, authorizing award of contract for consult engineer. I need a first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, could I have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Dewey?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
2019, Resolution 2019-190, CER dog obedience class refund. First and second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, did Seamus fail?
No, Seamus is very obedient.
No?
Thank you for asking.
Can I have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Dewey?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Jim, didn't we talk about the sewer underneath the, I don't see it.
We
on-
did, yeah, that's, I'm sorry to get back to this afternoon, Mayor. When we awarded the design engineering portion of it, they're going to be the ones who actually put the bid and everything out.
Okay.
We don't have to come back to council and ask for permission to put out the bid. That's part of the process that we don't need to have anymore. So the bid is being prepared and it will be out shortly.
Okay. Just keep me updated on that, because it's,
Yes, sir.
Resolution 2019-191, road opening permit refund. First and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Delivery?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2019-192, award of contract diesel single turner valve maintenance trailer.
That sounds like
Only
John.
you. Can I have a first and second, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I'm dying to hear your explanation on this one.
Okay, Mayor. It's an actuator for exercising street valves. It will exercise the valve, open it and close it, and will mark it GIS for mapping.
So once you open the valve, you're gonna...
It's going to exercise it. It's going to open it and
Exercise
close
the
it,
date and the time and all that stuff.
and then mark it so you know exactly where it is.
And we have a specialist for this.
It's not going to be a specialist, but it'll be assigned to an employee at Public Works, yes.
Good. Can I have a roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Delivery?
Valve fitness is very important, yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Keeps the calcium from building up into the valve and keeling over. Huh? Sure.
No.
Get it. Tiger, if you can get a PO off of Roxanne, you can have one.
Did you hear that, Chief? I heard. Okay.
Okay, we're going into our consent agenda. Brigantine Elks raffle license number 901. Brigantine VFW raffle license 902. Brigantine Polar Bear plunge request. Can I have a first and second?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Can I have a roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Delivery?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, our manager's shaking his head, no. Okay. I'd like to start out, I got a little things here I would like to go over. The VFW celebrating 100 years of the VFW. Wow. We're going to have a parade. I know you're all excited about that, Mike.
I love parades.
Did you paint the float yet?
It's all ready to go.
Okay. It will be held on this Sunday, November 10th. Lineup starts at 10:30 at 25th Street Ball Field. Parade will go to Veteran Memorial Triangle at 32nd Street. So come out and support your veterans, the VFW. I know, Paul, you're going to be part of that with your Legion Riders and everything. So it'd be a nice time, and and right next to Veterans Day and everything. And of course, I know Karen's father was a veteran, so was mine.
I will be there.
Yep. Tiger, thank you for your service. You're still a veteran, and Paul and Jimmy, whoever. If I miss somebody, I'm sorry. To speak up. Thank you for your service.
What time did you say that was, Andy? I'm sorry.
That was at 10:30 is the lineup.
Okay.
Yeah, and everybody's welcome. You don't have to be a veteran. Just jump in the parade and or the float. Mike?
You know, there's going to be live music on the float, there's going to be a marching band, a full-string band, some pipers, dancers, Irish dancers, or that's St. Patrick's Day, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. All right.
You done?
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. The interfaith service will be held Tuesday at the temple. I'm sorry, not Thursday. November 26th at 7:30. That's when all the churches get together and we're all one and everything. They asked me to speak there. I have been doing it for the last 4 years. The old mayor, Gunther, was away usually at that time, seeing his daughter out in California. So it's a nice time. It's right around the Thanksgiving, giving a proclamation for it and everything. So it's a great thing. I think it was last week, myself, John Doring, and our city manager, Jim Bennett, went and got an award at Atlantic County Donald J. Sykes Award Program over at Atlantic City Country Club. It's for our beach mats that we have down there. It was really nice. There's a lot of needy kids out there, and they turn into needy adults, and they're very special people. And I was humbled to be there with those folks and everything like that. I saw Ken Mosca, wife there. She's big into that, and they do a great job. So it was a great award for the city of Brigantine. It's behind Ryan's desk right now. I'm sure we're going to get it out into the lobby area, and so everybody else can see it. So I appreciate you guys coming with me, and and it's very nice. And about the beach mats that we have. How many we have now? 5, 6 beach mats. And well, we keep them at the handicap parking lots we have, and just so we do a great job with that, City of Brigantine, and we were recognized for it. So that's it. Yeah, we have election, everything. Okay, you want to go, Karen? If I have anything, I'll come back to it.
Just one quick thing. We received an email from Acua that regular pickup will be as usual on Monday, even though it's a holiday, Veterans Day. They will be around to pick up your trash. That's it.
Paul?
I would like to congratulate Paul on his landslide victory yesterday.
Yeah.
Second ward council person.
I just wanted to thank, I wanted to thank everybody in the second ward for their support. I'd also like to thank all the poll workers in every ward. I was there most of the day and watched the folks in the second ward from early in the morning till 8 o'clock and after. Thank you very much for your contribution to it all.
Thank you, Paul. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Just like to echo those thoughts that Paul just said, and everything is peachy keen in the third ward. That's all I got. Thank you.
Rick?
Things are super dandy in the fourth ward.
Peachy Keen, super dandy. I love it.
I just want to hear what Mike has to say, really.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Rick. Did I tell you we lowered the taxes last night, the last 5 days in a row? All right.
Why didn't you mention that before?
Yeah. Anyway, I'd just like to say, besides the poll workers and all, I want to thank all the voters that took the time to come out and vote. Yesterday, we had reasonable turnout, but we appreciate voters taking the time to come out and vote. And I'd also like to congratulate Phil Gunther on coming out on tops after the polls were closed, but we still have to wait to see after they count the rest of the ballots what happens. But a good showing by our former mayor, And that's, oh, one other thing, the American Legion, after, not directly after the parade, but that night, on Sunday night, they're having a dinner from 5 to 9, very reasonable, delicious food, filet mignon, lobster tails, a lot of good stuff, crab cake sandwiches, and maybe they might be out of those, but they are having a dinner. It's the 100-year anniversary of the auxiliary of the American Legion. So that's going on also. Thanks.
Okay. I know the two gentlemen out there, I don't think they're going to come up and speak or anything. Yeah. So,
Thanks for sitting through our lively discussions.
yeah. Election day is a long day and everything like that, and there was a mistake with happened yesterday, and it got blown out of proportion, and I just want to tell Lindsay, you're the best.
Yeah, thank you.
And, you know, we have your back, and it should never came to that, and I think, here, yeah, cooler heads.
Very good.
So I appreciate that, and I just want to tell everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for being part of our council, and, you know, and great job tonight with the discussions and everything. And Fred, you even talked tonight. You know, that's unusual. And sometimes I don't even know you're here. But that's, yeah, you're low profile, and no, you guys do a great job, everybody here. You know, again, you know, fire chief. You know, I love you. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Like I came to the whole meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least you showed up for one.
I'll make one this month.
Yeah, this month. And we're not having another council meeting this month, so, happy Thanksgiving. Tommy Real, you know, Chief.
How many more?
Fantastic.
How many more meetings?
John Doring, great job, you know, even though that, you know, we're gonna talk about that shirt you have on. I'm going to need a motion and a second for closing the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you for being here at our November meeting, only November meeting, and I'll see you in December. I knew you were going to start singing.
It's like airplane.